Right, I'm going to build into the next Olympics with some words from Dave Wood. So we contacted Dave when I heard that you've been doing some breathing stuff with him. Dave is a legend. Listeners of this podcast know, how highly we hold Dave, and he had some really great words to say about you. He said, Billy will always be the best surfer at a break in New Zealand, but if he went to Aussie, he'd be surrounded by other top surfers at his level. So Billy has to go off his own back to find what works. Billy's creating the blueprint, which is to use what we have in New Zealand to our advantage, but also be willing to go overseas to get amongst it. But that's challenging as there's not a lot of money in surfing. They have to push and want it. Billy is such a determined person. He's been on the WQS feeder system into World Champion Tour for 10 years. To have that kind of discipline and focus and relentless attitude to get to the top is really something that is limited to a very small percentage of athletes. The guy is willing to go back year after year after year when they don't have the backing that other people from other countries had. He's also a very fierce competitor, natural competitiveness you can't train, willingness to win at any cost type attitude, but also looks after his mates and is caring. What he's achieved on the world stage from New Zealand is unprecedented. He's been accepted into the next Olympics at one of the most intimidating places in the world to surf. Anyone that goes there feels fear, apprehension, tension, the stress that goes with surfing at a place like that. Add to that being under a microscope at the Olympics. It's a huge challenge ahead of him.
Wow. Thanks, Woody. What a legend.
Yeah, he's the man.
Yeah, he is the man.
But it does set the scene nicely about the challenge ahead of you. Why is this place so intimidating?
Yeah, Paris seems pretty relaxed.
Yeah, so it's called the Paris 2024 Olympic Games, but surfing is actually in Tahiti, at Teaupu, which is, for people that don't know or follow surfing, it's like one of the most dangerous waves on the planet. It's short, shallow reef, really intimidating, comes from really deep water, which, if the swell comes from really deep water and kind of breaks on shallow, dry reef, there's a lot of power and energy behind it. You're getting barreled and there's a tiny little channel with probably like 30 or 40 boats and jet skis right there, so you kind of like to make your way through them. There's the reef, there's a bit of a lagoon that you can get washed over. It's intense over there. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. I've only ever been there once, which was about 6 weeks ago, and it's a very scary place, but it's so beautiful and tranquil at the same time. It's a weird feeling. So the surf is just like so crazy and intense, like, a lot of energy and power out there, and then on land you got this beautiful scenic mountains and waterfalls, and the water is really clear, so it's a beautiful, special place, and I got a lot out last time I went, and like about 6 weeks ago, and we went for an ISA World Surfing Games training camp, so it was an Olympic training camp basically, and spent a week over there practicing, and we had coaches and water safety, and we learnt a lot, so I really enjoyed my time, and I'm looking forward to the journey ahead, and I really want to get fit and healthy and mentally strong, and I think working with Woody is going to really help. I feel like out there in a place like that, it's not so much about your ability to do turns or do airs or surf a perfect heat. It's more about pushing yourself and putting yourself over the ledge and putting yourself in that intense scenario of thousands of people watching you. And if you don't go, you're probably gonna look like a little pussy, or or if you do go, you might get smashed, and wearing helmets, and there's a lot going on. So I think like working alongside Woody would be really beneficial in this campaign, and I'm really looking forward to the journey ahead. Like I said, my last campaign was really good, and I really enjoyed it. So hopefully this one will be much better, and I'll be able to get a medal.
It seems like you're putting different things into your toolkit as well. Like we talk about Woody with breathing and with stress mitigation. I think you linked up with Albie James in the lead up to the last Olympic Games in terms of mentality.
Yep.
And then Johnny Rickard at the refinery getting punched in the face. Like, what does that teach you? Like, literally going combat sports and getting punched in the face, right? Which he gives massive props to you as an athlete way outside of their comfort zone, going into that environment to put themselves in that difficult situation.
Yeah.
So what do those sort of things teach you, and how do you apply them to your surfing?
Yeah, so I worked with along my whole career, I guess I've worked with a lot of good people, and Albie helped me a lot. That was quite after recent after my mum passed as well. So he helped me with that type of stuff as well. So yeah, worked with Albie and then Woody and now Johnny. And I don't know, I've just found the love of boxing's really fun. It's learning something new and it's moving in a different way and putting yourself in a different scenario, which is quite intense. But yeah, I guess learning so much, you kind of take it all on board and you can kind of, you know, take it into competition and tell yourself it's all going to be okay. You might get smacked in the head, but you're going to hopefully walk out of it pretty sweet, you know, in the gym anyway. In the gym, and you're going to walk out and go, okay, sweet, I can take that. And then having time in Tahiti, that kind of, you know, goes into having time in Tahiti, and if I do get smashed and kind of come away unscathed, I'll be like, okay, this is all right. I can kind of push a little bit harder and you know, go a little bit deeper, or and then the Woody stuff as well, you know, being in that intense and pressure environment, you know, slowing your breathing, slowing your heart rate down, which kind of puts you and your mind at ease, and you know, it gives yourself confidence and the ability to do your best. So I'm trying to surround myself with the right people, and yeah, it's less than a year away, so I'm gonna do all I can. I'm going away to Portugal on Monday or next week, so got a few more competitions to go, and then I'll be Olympic training hard out.
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Go on, mate. Come on, mate. Back yourself.
I am, because I'm interested in pulling the curtain back on the tour, the surf tour, and what the realities of that actually are. Because it sounds glamorous. It sounds exotic locations, travel, competition. What are the financial realities of that? Because I don't imagine the two are on equal footing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough, especially if you don't have sponsorship. Yeah, so we travel basically, I don't know, 8 to 10 months of the year, depending on what events we want to chase around the world. And it is taxing, you know, it's time away from friends and family and commitments around the house. But yeah, and it can be expensive, you know. I'm traveling to Portugal and Brazil, which is expensive just on airfares. And
is that your user pays? Like you've got to put your hand in your pocket?
So basically I've got a few sponsors on board that look after me and pay me a little wage to, you know, represent their brands and showcase their brands in the best way possible, hopefully. And that allows me to pay for my flights and accommodation and stuff. And to be honest, I'm not making much money. There's, you know, anything I do make goes straight back into my surfing training, you know, paying for gym memberships or physios, or, you know, so any competition wins. If I win big, then it'll probably basically go for savings towards next year. I'm probably going to start doing some fundraisers to get to Tahiti as much as possible, to put myself in the best possible situation to get a medal at the games. So, yeah, there's a lot of off your own back, definitely, in surfing. And like I said, without sponsorship, it's really hard. Some people do come home and work for a few weeks, and that, you know, they could be a Sparky or a builder, or and then go to competitions. But yeah, it takes the right mind frame, and you got to really want it, I think. And I think I want it hard out.
Am I right in thinking that perhaps back in the day, pro surfers were paid to be good pro surfers, but now in 2023, you're almost more valuable as an influencer? Like your social following is just as important as how you're actually doing out there? Like, have you thought about that? Do you consider being an influencer as a way to...
Well, I guess, sponsorship in a way these days is definitely influencing, you know, like I'm sponsored by RPM, so they kind of pay me to wear and give me the clothes, and then I'll, you know, promote their brand. So it's basically with social media and YouTube and stuff like that, it's basically influencing. Whereas back in the day, there used to be a lot more money around the surf industry, and there's pretty big contracts being thrown around. I went through a couple good years with Oakley, you know, and again, it all went back into travel. But you know, so I like to. And a lot of surfers get paid and they don't actually travel that much, but I like to travel and I like to compete, so all my money goes back into that, you know. So it's I think it's a lot harder to get sponsorship because of the social media stuff these days. So a brand could just reach out to some guy who's got 50,000 followers and pay them $2,000 to do a post, and you know, that's probably just going to get as much attention as a sponsored athlete. But yeah, it's definitely different now.
So who are the good bastards that are looking after you? You've mentioned RPM.
Yep.
What else? Who else do we need to look out for to support Billy on his travels?
Yeah, so I've got RPM Clothing at the moment, which is, Mike and the guys over there at the Mount. I love their stuff. Their clothes are amazing, and it's a New Zealand brand too. Curve accessories. I've got a few. Probably got a list off.
You're very good at this. Your crowd goes wild that you did with Daryl Halligan was amazing in terms of the sponsors. So we'll give you a platform to do something similar here.
Yeah. So Backdoor Surf Shop, Curve. Who else? Barrett Homes. Live Eyewear. Sticky Johnson, which is grip pads and stuff. I have my own Bilbo grip pad. People call me Bilbo because I'm short and look like a hobbit, So, Sharp Eye surfboards, and there's a couple of other people that help me out as well. And obviously I feel sponsorship is hard these days, and I feel like I've always made a conscious effort to like make communication good with my sponsors, which I think helped with Oakley for 13 years. I believe I wasn't like the best surfer in the world at the time, but I've had a really good relationship with my sponsors, and I think they really enjoyed that. So I think that helped me stay with them, because at a time that a lot of people got dropped, and I kind of kept mine. But I try and make an effort every time I come home to see all my sponsors, and if I could tell anyone out there, any surfers or anyone who does have sponsors, just make an effort with them, because they're looking after you and they're kind of helping your career and your path to get to where you want to go. So you kind of got to give back and, show them some respect and look after them in a way. So I try and make a conscious effort of that.
Just thinking, you should be able to make a bit of money on the speaking circuit upcoming. Like your story is you're so good at articulating your story, and there's so many good lessons there. I've got a couple of questions around surfing, and Shay's written this one, and sharks. Shay's terrified of sharks.
That Mick Fanning is the scariest thing
that's scary.
I've ever seen in my life. When you see that, does that stay in your mind, or how do you park that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I've seen quite a few, I've seen, sorry for all you Mounties, I've seen a shark at the Mount when I was younger. I remember surfing by myself, and there was like a bit of a channel and then a sandbar, and I was surfing the sandbar, and I kind of saw this thing out of the corner of my eye, and I duck dove, so it must have got bumped by a wave or something, and then I paddled in over the deep bit and onto the beach, and when I'd come in, I'd turned around to see where the shark is, and the shark was actually along the beach. So it tried to follow me in. I've seen a couple jump at in WA and Western Australia at Margaret River, and I was actually watching that
breach.
Yeah.
Oh fuck that.
Yeah. And I was actually watching that Mick Heat live as well, and I was just freaking out. I was watching it on my phone. I remember, and I was like, "Whoa, what the?" I fully freaked out. It was scary.
It popped up on my algorithm again.
Oh, yeah?
Well, I'm not surprised because my whole algorithm is sharks. And
that was the biggest story in the world. I was working at the Herald at the time in the sport department. Like that for about 2 weeks, it just captured everyone's attention.
Yeah, and Mick is like the best guy on the planet. Like he's like the nicest, humblest. He's always got time for everyone, and I got much respect for him. And for him to go through that is so gnarly, and he's come out of it. He's a world champion, and he's doing some awesome stuff now that he's stopped competing, and so that was really intense.
And big wave surfing, I think someone died recently in Portugal as well.
Oh yeah,
Marcio
Freire. Like 80-foot waves. Is that legit?
Nazaré,
in
Portugal. That's close to where I'm going actually.
That's a very big wave.
Freaky. Oh, that's not for me.
Yeah, okay.
You got to have a whole different mindset for that too, I think. And that's another preparation that only those top 50 guys go through. And I guess growing up in that kind of type of situation helps. So, for instance, the guys in Hawaii, they always get big waves through the winter, and they're way more comfortable in the big surf. So, for me to go and surf an 80-foot wave, I'd just be like way out of my element. And it's just a total different beast. You're towing, and then there's just there's so much more energy, and that freaks me out.
That's really interesting to me, because my assumption would be that a wave is a wave is a wave, and a surfer would just try and chase the best wave that they can. But there are levels to the game.
Yeah, for sure. There's big wave surfing, and then there's obviously free surfers as well that get paid to travel the world and basically make surf clips and and surf really good waves.
Is that your Laird Hamiltons and those kind of
Yeah,
guys?
I guess so. Yeah, he's made it. I think he made a career out of big wave surfing, and then he built his brand around that. Kai Lenny is another example. He does all water sports. Daniel Kiriopa is a really good example. He's the foil guy. He's on his kayak and he's still rips, still charges. He's he's out chasing.
Ultimate Waterman. That's him, right?
So there's a few of those guys out there for sure. But yeah, that big stuff is just that's scary. And Tahiti, to be honest, can be pretty big and scary. So, like I said, I want to try and get some good experience over there and spend some more time over there. So, have a good chance to medal.
When you go to a place like Tahiti and you surf that wave, is that the kind of wave that you can surf day after day after day, or do you need to recover if you've been smashed out there?
Yeah. I reckon you probably need a bit of. It depends on if the surf's pumping or not. I feel like if you're getting hammered and the surf's pumping, it's kind of sweet. You're kind of just frothing and you're back out there. But if you've got a few lay days and you've got actually time to rest, then you definitely should rest. Your body does get pretty torn to pieces, especially if you're hitting the reef. It's live reef over there, and the waves are really solid. So, for instance, Ethan Ewing broke his back just before the event recently, about a month ago, and he's the best in the world. He made the final 5 and got second actually overall after all that. So, and those are the best surfers in the world, and they still get hurt out there. So it is pretty scary and intense, but again, it's a challenge for me that I'm looking forward to.